Hello and welcome to It's Free IP. I'm your host Felix Chaplin, and I've been pretty lucky in my journey on YouTube when it comes to getting acquainted with other public domain enthusiasts. Someone who I was extremely lucky to interview was Xiran Jay Zhao, author of the New York Times bestsellers Iron Widow and Zachary Ying and the Dragon Emperor. It was recently brought to my attention that their sequel to Iron Widow, Heavenly Tyrant, was originally set to be released on April 30th of this year, but has had its release date postponed indefinitely by the publisher. To add insult to injury, despite having enough votes to be finalists in their respective categories, Xiran Jay Zhao and R.F. Kuang, the author of Babel, have been disqualified from the 2023 Hugo Awards in China, and they haven't been given a reason. If you go to the description, you'll find a link to Xiran Jay Zhao's Instagram post explaining the situation, as well as the email address for the Hugo Awards team for you to send your complaints. For my part, I'm re-uploading my first interview with Xiran Jay Zhao, which we recorded in 2021 shortly after the release of Iron Widow. Thank you for listening to this announcement, and I'll see you next time. Hello and welcome to It's Free IP. I'm your host Felix Chaplin, and as usual, I'd like to start with a song.
Jesse James was a lad who killed many a man. He robbed the Glendale train. He stole from the rich and he gave to the poor. He'd a hand and a heart and a brain. Jesse was a man who was friend to all the poor. He'd never see a man suffer pain. It was with his brother Frank they robbed Chicago Bank and they stopped that old Glendale train. Now Jesse had a wife, lived a lady all her life. 3 children, they were brave. But that dirty little coward who shot Mr. Howard has laid poor Jesse in his grave. It was Bob and Charlie Ford, those dirty little cowards. I wonder how they feel. For they ate of Jesse's bread and they slept in Jesse's bed and they laid poor Jesse in his grave. It was on a Saturday night and the moon was shining bright. They robbed that old Glendale train. The people they did say for many miles away, it was those outlaws, Frank and Jesse James. Oh, Jesse had a wife, lived a lady all her life. 3 children, they were brave. But that dirty little coward who shot Mr. Howard has laid poor Jesse in his grave. Now the people held their breaths when they heard of Jesse's death, and they wondered how he'd ever come to fall. It was Robert Ford, in fact, who shot him in the back while Jesse hung a picture on the wall. Now this song was made up by Billy Gashade as soon as the news did arrive. He said there never was a man with the law in his hand who could take Jesse James while alive. Oh, Jesse had a wife, lived a lady all her life. 3 children, they were brave. But that dirty little coward who shot Mr. Howard has laid poor Jesse in his grave.
The song you just heard was Jesse James, a 19th century folk song recorded by friend of the show Catfish Franklin. Jesse James was an actual historical figure, which happens to be the subject of today's episode. Writing a story can be very difficult, from coming up with an interesting plot to using language that keeps your readers engaged. Hopefully today's episode will make the writing process a bit easier by shedding light on some characters that are free to use, namely historical figures, and with advice from today's guest. To quote Curly from the Three Stooges, truth is stranger than fiction. History is full of interesting figures whose experiences and accomplishments are the stuff of legend. Fictional Fictional stories about historical figures come in many different flavors. In his 2010 novel Abraham Lincoln Vampire Hunter, author Seth Grahame-Smith opted to spice a biography of our 16th president up with scenes of encounters with vampires. In 2002, the animated series Clone High featured historical figures from many different time periods interacting with each other in a high school setting. The possibilities for fictional stories featuring historical figures are limited only by your imagination. To complement the theme of today's episode, our guest is the author of a book whose protagonist was an important figure in Chinese history. It is with great pleasure that I introduce the author of the New York Times bestseller Iron Widow, Xiran Jay Zhao. Thanks for being on the show.
Oh, thank you for inviting me.
Would you like to say a few things about your book?
Oh, yeah, Iron Widow is a sci-fi reimagining of Wu Zetian, the only female emperor in Chinese history. And so I imagine her in a sci-fi world with giant mechas.
That sounds interesting. Why did you choose to write about a historical figure instead of creating an original character?
So I'm actually not that creative of a person, as in I have a really difficult time just spinning things out of nothing. And I think I especially struggle with creating just characters from scratch. And so when I have a historical figure in my mind, when I'm writing, then it's much easier for me to find that characterization and to write.
That makes sense. I'm sure a lot of people can relate to that issue, which can fortunately be resolved by using historical figures.
Yeah.
You've made 2 videos on your YouTube channel about the real Wu Zetian. How closely does Iron Widow mirror the true events of Wu Zetian's life?
Not very closely at all. Basically, the only resemblances are, I consider them Easter eggs, because, my Iron Widow is YA, so it's young adult science fiction, so this all, basically the entire timeline of her rise to power condenses to when she is a teenager, because she has access to these giant robots. So, yes, all of the events, a lot of, the historical Empress Wu's powers, based on, her being, a mother to, a mother to 4 princes and a wife to 2 emperors. And obviously I can't do that in a young adult novel. So really it doesn't really have that much resemblance to the events. I just used the characterizations of the historical figures.
You mean to tell me there weren't giant mechas in Wu Zetian's lifetime?
Yeah, surprise!
If you were able to go back in time to give the real Wu Zetian a copy of your book, how do you think she'd react after reading it?
I think she would just laugh. You would think that she would kill me, but no, she was very graceful, because in the second part of my historical series on her, there was this person who wrote this gigantic manifesto against her, right? And then you would think that she would get all angry at it, but no, she just laughed at him. And I think so she would just laugh at me and be like, "Oh, that's so cute."
I assume you didn't write any anti-Wu Zetian propaganda saying she needed to get dethroned or anything like that.
Yeah, no. So I think she would just be like, "Oh, this is cute."
Or she might incorporate it into her backstory.
Propaganda? Yes.
A bit of a soft spoiler warning, but I heard that Iron Widow ends on a cliffhanger.
Hey, yes, it does. Yeah.
Do you have any upcoming books in the series? And how many are there?
Yeah, I do. Right now, I am writing book 2, and it's been a challenge for sure to balance all my time, because I wasn't I was in school when I was in my last semester of university when I wrote Iron Widow, so there was just that commitment. But now I'm this YouTuber, and I have to balance being a YouTuber and being an author. So it's been hard to write book 2, but I'm slowly getting there.
Well, little by little you're getting there. Would you like to see your books adapted into a movie series or maybe a show?
I guess every author wants this, but I am mostly indifferent to whether or not it happens, just because I know that I wrote something that is very hard to actually translate onto screen, just because it would require so many special effects. So I am indifferent.
My follow-up question was going to be if you wanted it to be animated or live action.
Oh, animated for sure.
Do you have any advice for any aspiring writers that might be listening?
My top advice is always to just read your genre. Be at least a little bit aware of the market and what's selling in the market. I know that no writer or creative likes to think about this, but the very fact is, if you want to get traditionally published, you have to be aware of what else is being published. And so you have to if someone is writing basically the same concept as you would want to know, right? So you have to be aware of what's out there right now and to read a lot in your genre so you know what to do.
That sounds like some pretty solid advice. Usually people just say practice.
Well, everybody knows that. Yeah.
Well, thank you for breaking the mold on that one.
Well, it's just because I had a really difficult time breaking into traditional publishing. I wrote 3 books before Iron Widow, and it wasn't until I really started reading my genre that I wrote Iron Widow, and that was the book that broke me in. So before then, I was just like, oh, I can write whatever and get published, but that's not really true. You still have to be aware of what's actually selling and what's not.
Do you want to talk a bit more about these books, or are they something you don't want to see the light of day?
My first 2 books are for sure I never want anyone to see them. Although my very first book is a fantasy novel that's about this global dictator who took over the world with his superpowers, and then there's this group of reincarnating rebels that keep trying to take him down. And that's an interesting concept, but unfortunately I was just too baby of a writer to have done it any justice. And my second book, oh boy, I do not I hope that never sees the light of day. I don't even want to talk about its concept. And my third book, it's actually the one that got me my agent, and I really do wish it could get published somehow, but I think it's just too alien for the publishing climate. But it's about sci-fi mermaids, so it's 1,000 years in the future, and the ocean is now inhabited by humans, but they're either genetically engineered into mermaids or cybernetically engineered into mermaids. So there are these bio mermaids and also cyborg mermaids. So it was really cool, I think, but unfortunately just publishing was oh no, this is too sci-fi, too out there.
I guess giant mechas in ancient China weren't too far out there then.
Well, actually it was, because I got rejected by every single American publisher. So I'm actually with a Canadian publisher, which is basically unknown for a heavily anticipated title in YA. So yes, actually I did encounter a lot of trouble getting Iron Widow published too.
Oh wow. I'm learning quite a bit about the publishing industry from this conversation.
Yeah, this is why I don't, unless it's you really, really, have the passion for it, I don't recommend anyone trying to, live off of, publishing books. Because it will break your soul if you're not ready for it.
I can imagine that based on what you're telling me. You have another book coming out pretty soon. Would you like to say anything about that one?
Oh yeah, it's coming out it's coming out summer 2022, and it's called Zachary Yin and the Dragon Emperor, and it's a middle grade series about a Chinese American boy whose AR gaming headset gets possessed by the spirit of the first emperor of China, and then so he has to go on this road trip across China to heist real artifacts and defeat figures from history and myth.
That sounds pretty interesting. I'm looking forward to when that one comes out so I can see what it's all about. Well, those are all the questions I have for you. Thanks for being on the show.
Yeah, thanks for inviting me.
That's all the time we have for today's episode. Be sure to like, subscribe, share this episode with your friends, check out Xiran Jay Zhao's YouTube channel, and pick up a copy of Iron Widow. Thank you very much for listening, and I hope to see you again next time for more free IP. I'm Felix Chaplin, and remember kids, this show is not legal advice.